Back squat. Set up, approach the squat rack with bar at chest height, supporting the bar across the rear delts. Eccentric phase, inhale, flexing at the hips, engaging gluteus maximus, lowering like sitting in a small chair, following with knee flexion, engaging the quads. Concentric phase, extending the hips and knees while keeping the core engaged, exhaling, driving at the hips, keeping the head and chest up. Front squat, setup. Approach the squat rack, bar at chest height. Grab the bar, driving elbows up, supporting the bar across front delts. Eccentric phase, inhale, flexing hips, following with the knees, like sitting in a small chair. Concentric phase, exhale, keeping the core engaged, drive up by extending the hips and knees, keeping head and chest up. Box squat. For the setup, we begin with our feet hip width apart with a slight out toe, one step in front of a box or a bench. The eccentric phase, we inhale, lowering by flexing at the hips and knees until making contact with the box, pausing. The concentric phase, we exhale, extending the knees and hips to rise up off the box without momentum. Deadlift. Set up, approach the bar, flexing at the hips and knees, feet hip width apart, spine neutral, grabbing the bar at shoulder width. Concentric phase begins with exhaling, extending simultaneously with the hips and knees, keeping the head and chest up. Eccentric phase, flexing at the hips and knees, lowering the weight while keeping it close to the body, keeping the spine neutral. Bent over rows. Begin flexing at the hips and knees with feet hip width apart, picking the bar up off the ground. Inhaling. Concentric phase begins exhaling, retracting the shoulder girdle and hyperextending the shoulder joint, raising the bar towards the torso, squeezing the shoulders together, keeping the elbows tight to the body. The eccentric phase begins with inhaling, lowering the weight, keeping the spine neutral and the core tight, protracting the shoulders and extending the elbows. Our one arm row begins with one hand and knee on a bench, hand directly below the shoulder and knee below the hip, picking up the dumbbell with the opposite hand. The concentric phase, we exhale, retracting the shoulder girdle, hyperextending the shoulder joint, flexing with the elbow. The eccentric phase, we inhale, lowering the weight, protracting the shoulder girdle, flexing the shoulder joint, extending the elbow. Pull-ups begin by grabbing a bar at shoulder width or slightly wider. The concentric phase, we lift ourselves toward the bar by retracting and depressing the shoulder girdle, while flexing the shoulder joint and elbow, and exhaling. The eccentric phase begins by lowering ourselves while inhaling and protracting and elevating the shoulder girdle, extending the shoulder joint and the elbow. Chin-ups begin by grabbing the bar at shoulder width with supinated palms. The concentric phase, we lift ourselves toward the bar by retracting and depressing our shoulder girdle, while flexing the shoulder joint and exhaling. The eccentric phase, we lower ourselves while inhaling, protracting and elevating the shoulder girdle, extending the shoulder joint and the elbow. The barbell bench press, we begin by laying on our backs on a bench with a barbell above our eyes. The eccentric phase, we inhale, lowering the bar towards the nipples by horizontally abducting the pec major, retracting the shoulder girdle, and flexing the elbow. The concentric phase, we horizontally adduct the shoulder joint, protracting the shoulder girdle, and extending the elbow while exhaling. Dumbbell bench press begins by laying on our backs on a bench with dumbbells in each hand. Starting in the concentric phase, we exhale, horizontally adducting the shoulder joint, protracting the shoulder girdle, and extending the elbow. Beginning the eccentric phase by inhaling, horizontally abducting the shoulder joint, retracting the shoulder girdle, flexing the elbow, and keeping the dumbbells in line with the chest.